everybody. Welcome to Talking Disney Podcast. And this is the show where we love talking about the Disney Canon. And we've been having content creators on talking about their Disney Canon ranking. So it's super fun. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford is here.
Hey, how's it going?
And we have very special guests with us today. We have YouTuber Jim Gisriel here. And thank you so much, Jim, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you guys for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes. So you've been on a while back on our podcast, but why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about what you do on your channel.
Hi, I'm Jim. I'm a film critic, dad, regular person, I hope. I do current movies, kind of a lot of animation. I do video essays. I just started a new cartoon, which is kind of a guy and a TV talk to each other and talk about film terms and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I've been into animation since I was been working on cartoons and learning from animation historians and all sorts of stuff. So yeah.
How did you first get started your interest in animation?
I didn't really ever give it up. You know, like when you're a kid and you're watching cartoons and then you sort of, I guess most people stop or theoretically stop. Since I was into comic books, I always knew there was older animation. And so I never let it go. But then when I went to college, sorry, this is like a long story. Maybe.
No, please.
When I went to college and I worked on my own Flash cartoons, and I worked with Ian Jones Cordy on Knock Forest and stuff. I'd learned from animators who are now work at Cartoon Network and stuff. And then I had I think what really got me into the history of it, and I was always interested, but I was a film student in college, not an animation student, is when I worked for the college, I got to do this class by this guy, Howard Beckerman, who, this isn't me exaggerating, he literally has taught animation history longer than anyone in the history of the medium, to my understanding. And he would just show so many interesting things and tell me about stuff. And I got to work with him for so long. I picked up a lot from there. So I think that sparked my interest in animation, and not also Disney, and understanding the canon better, because Disney doesn't always help you time wise, but he kind of helped me frame it better, understanding what were the classic period, what was each of the periods, what happened, and everything like that. So I think that answered that question. I hope it did.
And you were in wasn't the beginning of your channel, you did the pony content?
No, I'm not. I've actually never, I've watched very little My Little Pony. I just was on, this is not going to sound like I'm being embarrassed of My Little Pony, but I've been to two of the cons because I worked for Saber Sparks on his videos, and I was on Paleo Steno's podcast. But the joke is that I know literally nothing about My Little Pony. I'll make up plot lines because I don't. I have a character called Apple Clumps, who I made up myself, who I just make up what I sort of think happens on them, and everyone laughs. I don't actually know if I'm joking most of the time.
So how did you connect with all those guys?
Through, I was on I'm still on the Pizza Party podcast, and that was about animation. And I talked a lot about animation. Paleo was on Pizza Party, and through Paleo, I met all of them, and we all got along, and they liked what I knew about film history, and I think they liked me I'm pretty sure they liked me as a person too. So, but yeah, I don't think I've done, sorry, but people do think that because I've been to two brony cons. So, you would think that I know something, but I don't. Sorry.
Hey, not everyone can say they've been to BronyCon. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, all the bronies were a little like, why are you here? This is weird. You don't know anything, literally. But I was there, and they were nice, but they would be like, why? What? No. But then my friends would be like, oh, Jim's here. It was I had a good time, but they were like, what?
That's funny. Yeah. It's not a bad show. It's pretty good.
I mean, my daughters watched it a little bit, and I'm like, oh, this seems good. But part of me, because I've gone so long in the
Yeah.
fandom without ever having watched it, I don't want to ruin my record of knowing nothing.
Yeah.
So I kind of like my non-watching part of the fandom, I guess.
Well, that's me and Scooby-Doo. I've seen nothing.
Really?
Yeah, no, I watched the most recent film, The Scoob, and that was terrible. And I've heard that was
No,
not a
that's not.
good demonstration of Scooby-Doo, but because it was more of like a superhero movie. It was weird. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it
I've
was.
never watched because I'm kind of a horror wimp, and so the idea of like the spooky and the ghost stories and things like that didn't really appeal to me as a kid. So I just
Yeah.
never watched it. And yeah, that's my
Wow, that's
pop
surprising.
culture thing that for animation that I haven't seen almost nothing.
I'm gonna have to watch your Scoob review after this. I'm very curious
I'll send it to you.
so what Stanford, do you have an animation like blind
Blind
spot?
spot.
Yeah.
You know, one of my big blind spots has been anime,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
Rachel's helped me with that a lot, which I've appreciated. But I'm trying to think if there's some other ones too. I don't know if you necessarily call it a blind spot, but I mean PBS, okay, like Arthur and shows like
Yeah.
that. I was too old by the time those came out, and I never
Yeah.
watched it. I was a big Sesame Street and Mister Rogers' Neighborhood uh, watcher.
Mm-hmm.
I love
Yeah.
those shows, but these animated shows that came out. Rachel, our mutual friend Mark Brown, he had me on his Who Wants to Be a Millionaire
Oh
show,
yeah.
his little, which is fun.
Yeah.
And I, of course, I always get the PBS questions, and that's the ones that kick me where I lose.
Did you ever do that, Jim? The Wants to Be a Millionaire animation
No, I don't know
thing?
anything about this.
We should give him your
We
number.
need to give
your name.
your name
I'm
to
curious.
Mark.
I'm curious. I'm with you on the Arthur thing because I was too old
Mm-hmm.
when that happened. Like
The
I
Magic
was
School Bus,
Magic School Bus a little because I was like, but that was like right when middle school hit. Like some of these things, if you're not the right age,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
and like especially like I think Arthur started when I was too old and ended before my kids could get into it. So we missed each other. That
yeah.
it's not going to happen, So some of these, and when people are so passionate, like especially like Blues Clues, people will be like, "You don't know Blues Clues?" I'm like, guys, I was 14. Like I wasn't going to watch Blues Clues.
Exactly. It's like I haven't watched this.
Like
I'm aware of it, but I haven't watched an episode.
Yeah,
like
I get that a lot with
anyway.
also the like early DComs, which have huge fan bases. Like when Under Wraps, the remake came out last year, people are like, "You haven't seen Under Wraps, the original," because that was the first DCom that ever came out. And I was like, I was in college.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We were not watching.
My daughters just started to get into DComs with the zombies movies, and they're taking over the house.
Did you watch the recent one, Zombies 3?
I've seen. Yes, I saw Zombies 3.
It was so intense. Like I was just like, what are they doing? There's like a moment that's basically right out of Wrath of Khan, and I was just like, what is happening? They're like putting their hand to each other, and like the person's going off and just gonna like die. And
I'm like, yes, that is. The thing with those that's weird is like, because I watch horror movies and I'll watch it and I go, because they're bitten by werewolves, and I was like, no, they're not bitten by werewolves. That's not why they're werewolves. And I was like, that doesn't. I'm sorry, I can't accept it. Wait, they're zombies, but they're your friends. Like, and I know, like, I don't know. I have to.
There's aliens now.
Yeah, they're alien. But I'm also like, I don't want them. I think they're stopping because the kids have to be in high school and stuff. And like, but I want zombies to just keep bringing things in, like even though they're not really good. Not really
Seabrook
good.
Is getting crowded at this point. And
the
thing that was so crazy about this movie is that like, so they're dealing with aliens and like that there's extraterrestrial travel and all kinds of craziness. And yet like they kept going back to the big cheerleading competition.
Oh no, the cheerleading competition is the most important thing in the universe. That's what I learned from.
And then the aliens, they sign up for
the aliens are like really good at Oh gosh, it's
And the moms are like, "That's not fair. They shouldn't be allowed to enter." I'm like, "What is happening?
it's like
They're aliens."
it's so high concept. I was like, this is
Yeah.
like there's so many different things going on. I was
It
like,
was so funny.
it's
I was just I don't know, I kind of admired it because it was just so crazy. But
yeah, no,
not like
it was
good, but it was just like,
no,
wow, what is happening to this movie?
I don't know. I tried to avoid the Disney Channel stuff with her, but it kind of like finds its way in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is so like when I watch him, like I don't. There's sometimes I don't like scenes, but I guess sometimes I'm like those kids look like they worked really hard,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that. Like it looks like they did a lot of like late nights rehearsing
Mhm.
that choreo
Mhm.
because they're really good at it. But
Yeah. Well, and they get good talent on those decoms.
oh yeah,
They
like
really do.
I a lot of them. I was like, I think I'm going to see you guys like
Yeah.
much like Zendaya and the other people who I think I'm going to see one of you guys in
Mhm.
like a serious drama, and everyone in the theater will be like, "Oh, it's such
Mhm.
a great performance." I'm like, "Oh, she was the werewolf in Zombies too." Like,
Well, and Matt Cornett, he played the main alien,
yeah,
and I think he's so great. He's in High School Musical, the musical, the series, and
that's
he's
such a
so
weird
I love
title.
him.
That's such,
All right, that was
anyway.
a tangent, but
Yeah, that was
it was
sorry.
still Disney related.
Yes.
Yeah, the Disney Corporation was involved.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies. What do you think is the value in watching the whole canon and
The
seeing the whole history, I guess, of the Disney studio?
well, I think there's a lot of value in it because it runs it's the longest running feature animation studio in film history. I mean, I'm always surprised when I talk to any film person and I'm like, hey, even Wreck-It Ralph is out or something. And they're like, they don't understand the importance of it because to me, it's like, it literally like there's no feature animation studio that's run longer. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how you feel about Disney and businesses and theme parks and all that stuff. In terms of film history, it's very impressive. Like it's kind of crazy to go from Snow White to where we are now. Like I think there's a lot of it shows you like how times change, how that studio's changed, how animation has changed, and also like they were probably the only real name in animation for a long time. Not until like, in terms of America and a lot of the world, until like Bluth and DreamWorks and stuff. And also just the change in times. I think a lot of them are really great movies. Like you're not sitting through it. If you go through any other series, I don't think you'll get the
Quality.
amount of the quality, yeah, definitely the quality and the history of it, just and the change in animation. Like
Mm-hmm.
none of like you're talking about different eras. Like it changes pretty rapidly from like Little Mermaid and Snow White don't look at all the same, or even Little
Mm-hmm.
Mermaid and Moana, or so it just yeah. And then, I don't know. I think there's always a lot of value in it. I've
Yeah.
never really thought
What do you think about that,
otherwise.
Stanford?
I think it's a really interesting perspective. I appreciate you bringing that up about I'd not really thought about the that it being the longest, running studio, but it's very true because even though there perhaps were some features earlier than Snow White, right? But
Yeah.
clearly, the longevity of his studio is really something to consider, and it's that really is, yeah, this is
Mm-hmm.
remarkable.
Yeah.
And all
Well,
the the dips as well. Sorry to cut
No,
you
no, go
off.
ahead.
All the dips as well. I think
Yeah.
it just kind
Yeah.
of makes you, because animation history thing that I used to hear a lot from people was, there's a lot of times where it could have been Fleischer we're talking about right now and not Disney.
Right.
Because it wasn't as, now it looks like they'll never end. Like I don't I don't think it's ever going to end for this uh this canon. But in the early days, like it could have been, if Mr. Bug Goes to Town had been the biggest hit in the world, maybe this would be different.
Mhm.
So
Well, and then like you think about the 80s, there was a
Yeah.
oh
rough
yeah.
time for the studio.
The they could have killed the animation
Mm-hmm.
studio. They were close
That
to it.
there's so many bad moves in the 80s. Like when I was thinking about it while doing this, it's like losing Don Bluth, I think, is like uh I don't know if they could have really taken care of him, because one of the things I think that
Mm-hmm.
the canon's not great at is taking care of auteurs. Other than John Musker and Ron Clements, it seems like they'll let you have a little artistic wiggle room, but then if you screw up too much, you're out to pasture. Unless you're those two, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, there was
Um,
the Nine Old Men, and they like someone like Wolfgang Reitherman. It was somebody who would like toe the party line and make pretty quality content.
True.
But yeah, you definitely had to. I mean, it had to be something that Walt liked.
Yeah, but I don't know. I wish Bluth had gotten to work with him, like direct a feature.
Mhm.
Not that I'm the biggest Bluth fan or anything. I just like when I look
Yeah,
at the 80, when I was ranking them, I was like, man, him leaving really, really messed them up for a while. Like
yeah,
that's such a, anyway, but not to make
yeah.
too much of it, which I
Because we
probably am.
just talked about Secret of Nim on our animation podcast, and you definitely wish that had been part of the Disney family, but
Yeah.
they weren't into it. I guess they'd already
No.
made too many movies about mice. That's what they
I'm a,
told him.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe I knew. I'm surprised. I mean, eventually, won't they buy whatever studio? Was that a Fox?
They're
Because
gonna buy all the Bluth catalog.
Anastasia is a Disney movie now, so I guess you know
Yeah.
maybe one day, maybe one
Maybe.
day.
Well, let's talk about the golden era, the first 5 movies, and what is your favorite and least favorite of the golden era?
Okay, I'm gonna have to look at make sure I do this right. So my most favorite and do I say my number
Yeah.
overall? I guess my most favorite. And I guess this is like we're starting off with what my number one is. I guess
Hmm.
is Dumbo, which is my number one Disney movie of like all time. And then my least favorite, I'm assuming we're ending with Bambi, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Just to make sure. Is Bambi, which I put at 25th, I believe. Yes. Which
Yes.
isn't
So,
super low, but
no.
not.
Yeah. So I have Fantasia at 5, and I
Mhm.
have Bambi at 29.
Oh, okay.
So what about you, Stanford?
So Snow White is my favorite. I have it at my number 5, and then Jim, I got to tell you, if I, and Rachel knows this, but like my top 20, they're
Mhm.
almost like all identical. It was I had the hardest time trying to really uh, prioritize those. But so that being said, I've got the lowest for me is Fantasia at number 19.
Oh, wow.
So what is it that you love about Dumbo?
I think, I always liked it as a kid. And then I heard um, around the time I was first working with Howard Beckerman, he told me, or Howard Beckerman, sorry to say that clear. He told me a thing about Dumbo is that Dumbo, I think David Mamet had said Dumbo has like the most perfect screenplay because there's not a wasted moment. I was sort of taken aback by it, and I sort of just started like watching it a lot. And I realized, like, even though it has the pink elephants in it, which might seem like sort of a complete waste, and doesn't really connect or anything. It really is a really tight, solid film. and I think I'm more of an economical storyteller person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just like moves so perfectly. It has so many perfect moments to it. Tugs at your heartstrings like a lot with everything with the mom Jumbo. Has so many wonderful memory moments in it, and it's just like a really tight. Like I think it's just a little over an hour. Every time I watch it, I'm like, wow, that's magic right there. That you can tell that whole story in an hour. That you're moved. That it's surreal. Like the pink elephants is very weird. But I was thinking about that once when I realized I was definitely gonna have this at number one, where I was like, would I want to watch the pink elephant sequence or do I want to watch a little kid elephant get drunk? And I think pink elephants is a better a better idea, frankly, than just how depressing that probably is. Um, but I don't know, just it works really well in tone. Um, and it can be really sad, which I think this period is really good at making the scares and the tragedy of these tales really real, especially Pinocchio, which is like nightmare fuel to a degree. Like I can't watch that part of that movie even. Like I watched, like I'm not like overemphasizing the horror movie thing, but like I've watched really scary, weird horror movies, and I can put up with them. But if my daughter's rewatching Pinocchio, I'm like, I gotta leave the room. I can't deal with this tonight. I, I, that. Oh boy. Anyway,
Well, you have it pretty high. You have it at 5.
well, you know what the thing with Pinocchio is it the animation in that is
Yeah.
pretty amazing, and I can't. I kind of am like, and it's also like probably maybe in that early period they were a little artier and it's very much told in a more foreign, I think, Italian way than we'd see later on. I think Disney had a lot of artistic ambitions that showed forth in the
Yeah.
beginning, and you can really tell that in that. And that everyone says the water in the whale scene is some of the best animated water, and I've often heard animators say it's like still the best 2D hand drawn animated film of all time. And the skill of it is something I can never. To me, it's like it's always a top five, and animated film or Disney film. It's just
Mm-hmm.
you kind of can't. Even though I I have a hard time watching it, I still can't. As a movie person and a film critic, I can't let that bias,
Yeah.
or nightmares later take me.
Yeah, I really admire that, Jim. See, I was actually incorrect on my ranking. Sorry, this was just an error on my part. I do have Fantasia at 19. I actually have Pinocchio at 22, and
Oh,
I know it's so low, and I feel like I'm betraying these these movies that are just beyond excellent.
yeah.
But you know, it was so difficult for me to rank him, and I just honestly had to go off of a big component of it was my own enjoyment of the film, and so that's not necessarily probably as academic or as noble as it should be, but because Pinocchio scares the crap out of me. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just be
This is everybody going
honest.
to be like Pinocchio scares me still? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I have it at 25, so I have it pretty low also, but I really I appreciate it, and did scare me as a little girl, and I've grown to appreciate it more as an adult. And I certainly don't dislike it. It just yeah. But where do you have Stanford? Where do you have Dumbo?
I have Dumbo at number 13.
Oh, same with me. I have also at 13.
Yeah, I
So
love
good.
Dumbo. Love it for every reason that Jim was saying. I just think it's a remarkable film, so compact in its storytelling, but it's just a perfect little film.
it's
Mhm.
I love
also,
it.
I think a part of it, sorry to burst in, but is that it's a movie like literally anyone can watch, which I think is great. Although I know
Yeah.
that the crows thing, I guess I can't not mention it since I put it so high. But for the period, it's not as bad as most classic
Mhm.
Hollywood movies. I don't know.
I think it's made a little bit better by the fact that the whole undercurrent of the whole theme of the movie is about friendship,
Yes.
and so it's not like uh, the I don't know. I just feel like sometimes we throw the baby out with the bathwater, where there's things that are our caricature that's the minstrel, and I get that and understand, but it's also about these, because the elephants are supposed to be afraid of mice. Timmy the Q Mouse defends Dumbo, and they become friends, and they're an
Yeah.
unlikely friendship. And I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah. No, I would agree. And
All
I mean,
right. Well,
and
what is
okay,
your
sorry.
favorite of the package era?
My favorite of the package era, I put I think I'm getting this right. Make Mine Music,
Yeah.
which well, I'll put the caveat that um the version I could see I put up there. If
Yeah.
the short had been put in there that they cut out, I don't know if I'd put it as high. But
The Hatfields and McCoys
Hatfield
one.
and McCoy.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't.
It's
I
weird.
really, I did see it. I did watch that short, but like the way that film, the tone poem at the beginning draws you in. And so for context, I guess for everyone listening, when I said I would do this, I realized I really hadn't watched many of the package films at all. So I had to like sort of marathon them. And this was my thing at the end. And it really kind of surprised me how this one's very different, I think, than the rest of them. And it's almost like a Fantasia sort of follow up. And it really drew me in this really sort of beautiful way that that I wasn't expecting. And if that Hatfields and McCoy's thing had been in there, it would have ruined. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
you got to start. There's something to be said about starting the right way, and I don't know
Hmm.
if I agree with them editing it out, but
Yeah.
well, I sort of do because I think the movie works better without it. So,
Yeah. It's just the most, I think, eclectic and weird. And sometimes I just like watching weird stuff.
yeah.
So
Let's
that's why I
It's
like
also
it.
it's very calming. I was sort of
Mhm.
surprised by it. The rest of them are not as like just this is very calm, smooth, kind of very nice, thoughtful kind of thing.
Mhm.
And it works together probably the best of all of them. And
And
it
you got
should be on
Willie the
Disney
Whale.
Plus. Yeah, oh, I love Will.
Oh,
And
I love Willie the Whale. I wanted to sing at the Met. Love it so
Yes.
much.
I actually saw that one. I'd seen that one as a kid. I had a VHS of just that and other shorts, not because they would cut these up and put them all over the place. And but this is the only one I guess that isn't on Disney Plus currently, correct?
Yeah, which is weird. They should just put
Yeah,
it on Disney
seems
Plus.
weird.
Yeah,
But
there isn't really any because when I heard that I was like, what is going to be in this movie? It made me a little nervous, like
just
that they're like they should just put it on. Although apparently the petitions don't have enough signatures, but Disney just put it on there. You don't have to make a big deal. Just like you can just DM me and I'll be cool about it.
If they can put Deadpool on Disney
yeah.
Plus,
Yeah,
I
they
mean, come
can
on.
put.
that's a good point,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, all right. Let's move on. So the Silver Era. So we have Cinderella through the Jungle Book. What is your favorite of that era?
So Jungle Book ends it because that's when
Yeah.
Walt died. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I was curious what the terms of this era were. I have Jungle Book at number 2. For me, I don't know, which one do it? I guess Peter Pan I have really low at number 57, which I
Yeah.
guess is probably surprising to most people. I'm not sure.
I have my lowest is Sword in the Stone, 51. Where you had that?
Where I had Sword in the
22. Yeah,
Stone?
that's 22.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say I know my fandom for Sword in the Stone is not popular, and I've been told this for a long time that they're like, why? Why do you want this movie? Like when I rushed out to get it when it got on DVD, people were like, why this movie? I like it. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah.
I have Jungle Book at number 2. Also, Jim.
Yay!
I just that's just it was a childhood favorite, and it continues to stay.
Hmm.
I just adore the film.
It's just a good party movie. It's
Hmm.
like
Yeah,
it's got a good vibe to it, and everything from Shere Khan to Baloo and Phil Harris is just I love Phil Harris a lot. Disney met him at a party that's how he met him and was like, oh, you have to be Baloo. I was like, I'm glad that that's the story, because that's amazing that he
Yeah.
met Baloo at a party.
Yeah. I mean, so many great bops from the Sherman Brothers. I have it at
Oh
27, but I
god.
really enjoy it. And it's my dad's favorite.
And it's people don't think of it, and I know we're talking about the eras, but it came out right when New Hollywood's exploding, and it really does have like this new, even though it's the end of Walt Disney, it's his last involved one, I guess. It has such a great energy to it. Like, I don't know, it's just something that I've always really liked about it. And it's sort of like a simple, like, he's just going to the man village. That's the whole movie, but it's got so many great stories. And I know it's not accurate to the story at all, but it's just such a nice little compact
Mm-hmm.
kind of a road movie,
Yeah.
so.
All right. Well, what is your favorite of the Bronze Era? So that would be the Aristocats through Oliver and Company.
um okay, I'm trying to make sure I say this right. Which 101 Dalmatians was part
That's
of the last
Silver.
one. That's Silver. Okay, sorry.
You're
I
fine.
should have a list of the canon next to my list so I know what
I'm
I'm talking
looking
about.
through your list
Was
here.
it Robin Hood?
Yeah, you've got Robin Hood at 16.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Is it Robin Hood?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I think it's Robin. Yeah, it's Robin Hood.
What ends the Bronze Era?
Oliver and Company.
Oliver and Company.
Oh, so Black Cauldron, which I put at number 60.
Yeah.
Which I put dead last. So that would be my top.
Yeah. I have it at 55.
I have it at 60.
I mean, I really thought about it, but I was like, it's such a Black Cauldron is. We were talking about. I mentioned Don Bluth earlier, but I think one of the things with it is like they were way too late with Black Cauldron. Like far too late. Like this should have come out in. I think it comes out in 85, 86.
Yeah, 85 if I'm not
85.
mistaken.
So by 85, like there are no Star Wars action figures on the shelves. Like, believe it or not, kids, Star Wars was not popular for a couple of years. It's crazy to think, but they couldn't sell Star Wars stuff in the mid to like for 10 years. They didn't sell Star Wars stuff, believe it or not. But the fantasy movement had ended, basically the sci-fi fantasy thing. And I'm not just disregarding it because of that, but I think it just like shows like the negative side of their production process. Had Bluth stayed around, I think he might have gotten it to work. But it just like, and it's like this weird amalgamation of like, they wanted to do like maybe what Ralph Bakshi did with Lord of the Rings. They wanted to do this, they wanted to do that, but I don't think they really knew what they wanted out of it. Like, they wanted to change the studio, but I don't think they had the right leadership to do it.
Yeah. And there's not very many movies where literally every character is annoying.
Wow. Yeah. Though. Yeah. I mean, it says something that I don't think they even put it out on VHS till the late 90s.
Yeah. I mean, the Horned King, I guess, is fine. He's not annoying, but every other character is annoying.
Like they really buried
Gurgi, you just want to poke your eyes out. It's so horrible.
If Disney ever wants to make a live action remake of this, I'm fine with it. Like, I'm sure you can do a better job. There's no way you can make.
Yeah, make it worse.
And make it like an accurate. Haven't read the book, but I've heard it's nothing at all like the book.
No, I don't know. I just think they really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was the point where people were like, "Should we even keep the studio around?" Which is pretty dire there. But yeah, I don't know. I just, I never had a lot of fandom for it, but it wasn't on VHS, so I didn't get to experience it as a kid.
Yeah.
I was like too young when it came out and too old when it came out on VHS finally. So I think that's the other part of it is I don't know, a lot of people have nostalgia for it because like, how could you?
Right.
It's like you couldn't anyway.
So the opportunities to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what about the Renaissance era?
The
what is your favorite of the Renaissance era?
So what are Little Mermaid through
Tarzan?
Tarzan's the okay. I'm always curious because I've noticed the Renaissance era gets a little Lucy with the end of it.
Yeah, because some people include Fantasia 2000. I've seen that included. But
I've seen it go all the way to Lilo and Stitch, which I'm like,
oh,
all
wow,
right,
that would be shocking.
let's calm it down. Let's sorry. So I put well, I want to say this. I put Aladdin at number 3, but Little Mermaid is right behind it at number 4.
Because I love Little Mermaid.
That was the Ron Clements and John Musker too in the first 4 are pretty hard to not. I don't know. I think they're both just. I really like that directing duo a lot since I've mentioned them a few times, but they know how to make a movie for audiences. They're just, and especially those first 2, they really knock them out of the park with those. So many likable characters, so many great moments where you can, like a Little Mermaid, especially, like part of your world is just such a showstopper.
And the Macon Ashman songs are just so good.
Yeah.
And did you? I've said this a million times on this podcast, but did you know that they animated 1 million bubbles?
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Literally 1 million bubbles? Did they count them, or
bubbles.
they just? Wow!
Every time a character moves, there's bubbles.
I mean that I knew that, but I didn't know it added up to 1 million. I'm not going to frame by frame count them, but I am a little surprised it's that many bubbles. But
but there are a lot of bubbles, and they make a big difference. I think.
Oh yeah, you can. I think if you ever watch for a little bit, we were watching the Saturday morning cartoon, and they don't have as many bubbles, and that was didn't hit as well. Although the show has its moments, but
yeah, and I was telling Stanford this that if you have to watch the cheap quills, the Little Mermaid ones are watchable. They're not great, but they're like.
Yeah, I liked that you said watchable.
Watchable.
Watchable. Did you, when you guys talked about this era, did you mention, and not to add to not go off topic and stuff, but did you talk about the work in progress Beauty and the Beast cut, or?
We haven't talked about that much.
We haven't.
The one that they screened at the New York Film Festival?
Or can people get access to that now? I don't know.
Well, I have it on one of the DVD releases of the film. I mean, they've done a lot of re-releases, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's available on Disney Plus, like in an extras thing. We should maybe check.
I mean, they talked about it some in that Howard documentary.
It's so fun to watch. Have you both watched that? That version of it, of the film?
Oh, I've watched it. I've seen it.
I love it.
It's if there's, I know people go back and forth on if director's cuts are worth it, but if there's ever one that's worth watching if you're an animation fan, it's that one. Just because you see, like, sometimes there'll be storyboards, sometimes there'll be unfinished sketches, sometimes it'll just be a scene from the movie. Because it's a work in progress cut, so you get to see like a rough cut of a Disney film. Yeah. It's the only one they've ever released like that, because it's what got it a Best Picture nomination. But anyway, I wish they'd release more of them. I'm sorry, this is like a side thing.
No, I'm glad you bring it up. This is wonderful. Yeah,
I just think it's an important. If you're an animation student listening, I would say, like, try to find. I don't know how you can find it, but try, because it's you. Every time I watch it, I'm always like, whoa. I mean, don't watch Beauty and the Beast first. Don't. I don't know if you're listening to this and you've not watched Beauty and the Beast. That's weird, but you should. I'm confused about your choices right now. But but watch Beauty and the Beast first, and then watch Work in Progress. Don't watch Work in Progress first.
But I think like I said, I think they have some of that in the Howard documentary.
I think they should, and I think they talked about it as well, because that was such an important event.
Yeah, it was. I still don't know why they didn't keep doing that with the other ones. I've always wondered.
I agree. That would have been,
like, couldn't have Aladdin and Lion King gotten?
Oh, I would have loved to see award stuff. Yeah,
I always wondered, and I asked people, and they always go, "Yeah, I don't know." I'm like, "Oh, come on!" Like, I want an answer. And they're like, we just didn't think about it. And I'm like, "Really? You didn't? Okay, all right, Cool.
Jim, what's your lowest one of this
Uh,
of the Renaissance era?
I think, I believe it's. Oh no, it's Pocahontas. Sorry,
Hmm.
I did put Tarzan pretty low. I'm not a
Yeah,
big
you do have it
Tarzan
pretty
fan.
low, 48.
I did, but Pocahontas. I do like the style of it. Uh, but um, I think you know what? I think maybe I never got to have nostalgia for it at all because my parents were like, "What? What is this? This is the story of Pocahontas. Our kids aren't seeing this," and so I
Yeah.
always knew it as like this weird, um, insane version of what Disney wanted from the Pocahontas story. So I don't think I ever really got to
Hmm.
enjoy it the way the people who did get to enjoy it, whose parents were like, whatever, just watch this movie. I don't care.
Yeah, I
My,
have it at 50 as well. So we're the
okay.
same on
I mean,
Pocahontas. And I just think the romance is just, and I love stupid romances, silly
yeah,
romances, but it's just so, she's so preachy and she's such an unlikable character
yeah,
and the romance is so lame.
that's the other. I also think, and maybe this is my own theory, but this comes out the same year as Toy Story. And I really think it marks a sea change in who the most innovative animation studio in
Hmm.
America is.
Yeah.
Because like how often do we like Toy Story like just won over the world and Pocahontas it felt like Disney adhering to a formula because they saw Beauty and the Beast got all these awards and all this acclaim and money and they're like what if we do that again but with American history? I don't actually Disney should stay away from American history if we've learned anything.
Probably. I think so.
I, I, I mean, I don't know which thing I'm referencing. To be honest, there's so many things, but like they really should. They should just like not do that. It's not a.
All right. Well, what is your favorite of the post Renaissance? So that's Fantasia 2000 through through Bolt.
Through Bolt. I'm curious which one. I think Lilo and Stitch would be my highest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you have that at 12.
Sorry, you guys have to go through and be
You're
like, "Is he
fine.
right
Oh, you're
on this?"
fine. No,
I,
this is
I
this
think
is so great.
I probably should have put. Okay, now I feel bad about what I put because I put Meet the Robinsons at 59, but I actually think I probably should have put Home on the Range which is at 58, so they're pretty close together.
Mm, yeah. What do
Um,
you love about Lilo and Stitch?
oh my gosh, whoa. Okay, sit down. You guys better be sitting. No,
Yeah.
uh, I just ever since I first saw it, I just like loved it. I just got so enamored with it. I like all my friends would try to do the Stitch voice. We took it so serious. I remember it was a bunch of guys and we were watching movies and when Lilo and Stitch came on, everyone was quiet because it's just like it's so arresting. But it's also it's like it is a Disney film, but like her and her sister argue the entire movie, which is very much like not what Disney was doing at the time. It doesn't feel like a Disney movie
Mhm.
almost
But
like that, which
it's interesting that you have it so high because it's very Dumbo-ish, I think.
you are I 100% agree with that and
Mhm.
I probably said it before but yes because it's like a small economical movie both financially and storytelling wise
And the
because
watercolor palette and
true
the theme of kind of family.
yes I wow you're are you a film critic Rachel this is crazy um the no I don't know and just I like the idea of Stitch and it just yeah I get a little speechless about it. It's also that I think no one believed in it and it was sort of like this dysfunctional Disney movie
Hmm.
and it like sort of took the world by storm out of nowhere. And I have noticed people don't even appreciate it now as much, but there's very I live in New York, but there's not a day that goes by that I don't see a Stitch t-shirt or a Stitch somewhere. And not that I ranked it based on Disney's merchandise sales, but I I will say I think it like really touches people. Like I really do. I think that's why it stayed around because it is very different from it, and it also introduced those two directors who went on to do first How to Train Your Dragon, and I really like I like those two, and now I
Mhm.
can't remember their names, but they I like those two guys, and I think they're really
Chris
good.
Sanders and Dean Dubois.
They're,
I'm not sure if I'm
yeah,
pronouncing Dean's name correctly, but yeah.
they're really good at kind of hitting a kind of a really smart point in childhood, I think, and they always have these characters who are like part of the family and family is important to them, but they're also like arguing with their family most of the movie, which is I think interesting because it shows like there's all sorts of ways to understand family, because hey, the first How to Train Your Dragon is about that too,
Yeah.
and I think they both do it excellently. And there's also like there's so many times where like I feel like my like a feeling going up my spine like while I'm watching it, like I'm just so at attention and have goosebumps and and cry and all those things. So I think and Lilo and Stitch just got me so excited for them. And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean it honestly feels like the closest to, I know people emphasize the Amblin thing too much, but it feels like a good mix of that and Disney, and probably maybe the best one that we've ever had,
Hmm.
so far at least. I'm sure someone will do it later.
Yeah.
Jim, I'm really interested in your ranking too of Meet the Robinsons at 59. I mean, I don't have it that much higher. I only have it 45, and it's not necessarily a film that I love. But tell us if you wouldn't mind telling us about
Well,
that
I
your
think
placement there.
I probably should have had Home on the Range, which I always think is called Bust a Moo, because when the posters were
This is a
everywhere,
poster, yeah. Bust a
it's
Moo on April 2.
I
it
have
would.
it at 60 is Home on the Range.
Wow.
I don't
I
like
have it at
it.
59.
I don't like it.
I think it should be titled Bust a Moo, but anyway, just because it was bigger than the title on the poster, like I'd get
It
confused.
was.
Even at the time, like people thought it was joking. They're like, "You mean Bust a Moo?" And you're like, "No, it's not called Bust a Moo." Like, but why don't they call it that? Like, if you're gonna be, wouldn't it be better if Disney's worst movie was called Bust a Moo? I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I
Agree.
only I only put. I probably shouldn't have put Meet the Robinsons, but I think it's because I've definitely seen it twice, and I cannot tell you what happened.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And it just didn't make an impact. Maybe I should rewatch it.
Well, it's interesting
But
because so much happens in it. It's a very crowded movie, and
yeah,
I like it because I think it has a ton of heart. I think, yeah. I mean, I have it at 36. I've got it like right in the middle,
mhm.
but and I think this the twist works pretty well. The surprise, which you probably don't remember,
No,
but
I don't. Because when you said that, I was like,
bowler
look,
hat man, it's pretty good.
there
But
could not be a twist, and you could tell me that, and I would believe it also. So
but yeah, it's a messy movie. You can tell that they were kind of a mess at the time it was made.
mhm. Yeah, they kind of were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Where do you have it, Stanford?
I have it at 45.
Okay. Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
All right. Well, so we've asked people on this podcast that do we think that there is just one revival era, or do we think there is a revival era and then a post revival era, like post Wreck-It Ralph 2 or Zootopia or somewhere in there? Do we think that there's a new era?
Oh, I almost
My argument is when John Lasseter leaves and we get new leadership, we get
yeah.
a change of tone. So that would probably be Moana on forward.
Well, Moana, I think he still worked on. Am I
Yeah.
right?
I think Lasseter was pretty involved with Moana.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
so
when was he not in? I mean, that's the problem with these. These have such long development and productions. It's sort of
I
I'm
think
not
he was
sure what.
still on Ralph Breaks the Internet, but I don't think his involvement was that much.
And I think, as
Yeah.
I recall, he announced Frozen 2 at
Well,
the D23 Expo that I was, one of that presentation that I was at that year.
Uh-huh.
wouldn't
But so clearly he was involved in the early stages of it, but I think that's near, wasn't it 2018
Yeah.
when he left
no? I think it was
formally.
earlier. Wasn't it 20? It was like when Coco came out. Because I
Maybe,
remember.
yeah, that's right. Maybe it was 2017 when he went on that 6-month hiatus. Right? Did he do that?
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
And
Well,
then
he's
he
gonna come back.
announced.
He's gonna come back any moment now, right? He's gonna.
Well,
Oh, there
he's
was an
come back with
interview.
luck.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
With
with
Skydance.
Skydance
that
Animation.
that
I
Hollywood
have not
Reporter.
read that interview yet. Did I forward that to you, Rachel?
Yeah,
Oh my
well, no,
goodness.
in the Hollywood Reporter.
I got it from somewhere.
So
yeah,
embarrassing.
it's interesting. I don't know.
I call this new era from Raya on. I mean, this is,
Well,
what do I know? But I call it the Jennifer Lee era.
I would say.
Because I feel like the movies have taken a very different tone.
If you're gonna, I will counter with. I agree with the Jennifer Lee thing, but I almost think Frozen 2 is the beginning.
Frozen 2.
Oh, that's a good point because Jennifer Lee, that has her stamp all over it.
Yeah, and I think also because so many of these, what was right before Frozen 2 is
Ralph Breaks the
Internet.
Okay, so I don't think Ralph Breaks the Internet fits in with the others because starting with Frozen 2, it's all about not just family but the legacy of family. Because you see that in Frozen 2, you see that in Raya, you see that in
That's true.
Encanto.
Ancestors.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah,
and I think it's like something they're both dealing with legacy and what your family represents, and a idea of opening up to the future, which seems to be something she's really interested in. Unless I'm forgetting a movie in there.
No, you got him.
So what is your favorite, if we say a revival era of Princess and the Frog through Ralph Breaks the Internet?
Okay, is it Frozen? I think it might be. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you've got Frozen at 13.
I had Frozen. Princess of the Frog is at 15, which I put pretty close. I'm not sure what the lowest would be. I think it might be Wreck-It Ralph 2. Yeah, it is. 51.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, which one should I talk about? Frozen?
Yeah. So, what do you like about Frozen?
I think I've always been more positive for Frozen than most adults, which I think is because I actually got to see it, and how they have the Wednesday or the before the opening day shows the night before. So when I saw it, it was just me and a bunch of Disney adults basically, and we didn't know anything about this movie. And I heard the audience. I was just there by myself, but you hear the people in the theater before the movie starts, and it was a lot of them saying like what their favorite Disney movie was. I think a lot of them said Lion King, and a lot of them had their arms crossed, like I'm seeing another one. It was sort of like whatever. This is just another Disney movie. Who cares? And they were very like apathetic about it. And then the movie starts, and people like, I could tell the audience's mood changed, and by the time Let It Go ended, everyone stood up and applauded, and I was like, what just happened? Like, oh my god! Like, and I hadn't heard that was like how I heard Let It Go. This was before because it really, I think the thing people forget about Frozen is no one really saw it coming. Like it just like hit, and suddenly people were like, I think this is like the thing now. Like what happened? And being able to enjoy that moment before the pessimism that I think continues to bring up. But the other thing I think that I noticed about Frozen is every movie that Disney puts out since, I always have to hear people say how it levels up to or is better than Frozen. And I'm like, that's a legacy right there. I mean, I think in 20 years we'll view Frozen like we viewed The Lion King. Where like before people would go, I heard in the mid 90s people would disregard The Lion King a little and say, oh, well, Hercules is better than The Lion King or this and that. And then eventually people were just okay with The Lion King. And I think eventually people will be like that with Frozen. And I like the sisterly the sister story.
Mhm.
I like all the songs. It's one of my favorite X-Men movies, and I think I mean, I probably part of it is I grew up as an X-Men kid, and there's a lot of that in there. But I also think there's a lot to read into Elsa being sort of different and having special powers. I think also, and not to be like, not to make fun of it, but I think that story that X-Men has and that Frozen has, like, if you feel different in any way, and I know people put whichever thing that they want on there, but I think having it so universal and open lets you do that. So if you just feel different for, something silly or something that's like important to your identity, I think that's
Mhm.
in there in such a beautiful universal way. And I just think, like, I don't know, I think
Yeah.
part of it is I got to enjoy it before the
I
hype
love
hit.
that story that you got to see it, just kind of like this with this enthusiastic yet, kind
Mhm.
of, you know,
Oh yeah,
in a fresh blank sheet. I mean,
yeah.
nobody knew
I mean,
what was coming.
the only thing I regret is I was really into it and I listened to the soundtrack, and then I had a daughter, so then I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have watched this so many times before she started watching this version. I was like I should have maybe had a little more foresight on that one. But
The let it
Well,
go fatigue is real.
yeah,
so I
yeah.
went to I love Frozen too. I love Frozen as well. I have it at 12.
Mhm.
And I went to the tryout that they did for the Frozen the musical in Denver, and
Oh,
I have a Elsa cosplay with a wig and everything. And so I wore it to the show, and it was an amazing experience. I mean, the little girls just were so excited. I mean, I don't look anything like Elsa. I mean, I had a wig, but still, I don't look anything like her. And if you ever want to feel loved, dress up as a Disney princess
yeah, yeah. Oh,
or
they
Disney
love it.
character, because it was an amazing experience. And I just realized from that experience just how much little girls love Frozen and
Oh
love
yeah,
Elsa.
oh yeah. It is the closest thing. Like my daughter's generation, it is like Star Wars.
Mhm.
I'd say, like, they know, like, all those characters are like Han Solo and Leia and Luke and
Yeah.
stuff. Like, that's who those, because they know it so well. Like,
Mhm.
it's remarkable.
And I also just recently went to a Disney concert at this outdoor amphitheater at the ski resorts, Deer Valley. They did this Utah Symphony and Disney songs, and it still amazed me that of all the different songs that they did, they played just the first two notes of "Let It Go," and everybody was cheering. Everybody was excited.
Wow.
You know that I think that sometimes we as like content creators, animation content creators, whatever, we get in this like bubble and we don't realize that like our, as you said, cynicism, maybe that we get tired of things not in the same way that like normal humans do, that
No,
they still love stuff that like maybe, and I
yeah,
still
I
love
think,
Frozen, but I don't know. I just think like a typical normal American is different than like animation YouTuber.
yes,
Yeah.
I agree. I've noticed that a lot where I'm like, oh, this is still a thing for most people. Oh, I didn't know that.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
Frozen, I think, is in there where it's just like so beloved.
it's special.
It's yeah, yeah, it is a special movie. It
Yeah,
is.
it is. I have it in number 18. I love Frozen.
Hmm. All right. Well, the last three movies to come out, which one is your favorite of Frozen 2, Raya, or Encanto?
Oh man. Uh in some ways this is tough. Because I've had to watch them a lot of times. Um uh
With your children, is that,
yeah, oh yeah. Less so, I'm gonna say, no offense to Raya. Which I don't know. I did rank Frozen 2 and Raya pretty close together at 32 and 33.
Hmm.
I like Raya. I don't know. But it's not, I think Frozen 2, I have a lot of sentimental attachment to, um, because my daughter like loved it, and we actually got to go to a movie theater with a child, which now feels weird. But I think I'm gonna give it to Encanto because I think that gets maybe the Disney thesis of, if we're calling it the Jennifer Lee era, the best so far. With everything with family, and I also just think that the music's
So
really
good.
great, and yeah, I think we had that on like last week or something, so that just hasn't left my house really yet. But
You've kept talking about Bruno.
oh yes, no, it's not. I like, well, now we get to this weird thing of every time a Disney thing on Disney Plus has someone named Bruno, I'm like, I thought we weren't talking about him. Like, he's in Luca,
Luca.
he's in Ms. Marvel. Like, what is your guys' deal with Bruno lately? It's like very confusing. I thought we were going to talk about it.
Yeah, he's the bully in Luca too.
It's just like, what's with all this Bruno stuff? I would say I would put that one pretty high. I think it works really, and it also, like, I think one of the things I like about Disney is when they do these films that like only take place in a small location, and it really is mainly in the house.
Mhm.
And because that house is so magical, you kind of don't feel it as much.
Yeah.
But I and the Lin-Manuel songs just really great, and yeah.
And I think
I don't-
Encanto had such good characters. Even the
Yeah.
grandma was a very interesting character.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
They were all well. What are your guys' favorite for this era we've dubbed, I guess?
So Encanto, I have Encanto at 18. So that's my favorite of these three.
Mhm.
I have Frozen 2 at 24 and then Encanto at 26. That was kind of hard.
I have Frozen 2
for
at
me.
22. So they're pretty close.
Yeah.
I love Lost in the Woods. I thought that was so funny.
I
Oh,
thought
that
Frozen 2 was I mean, it had some issues, but
yeah.
was a pretty solid. I guess it was just I just enjoy spending more time with these characters and the songs that
yeah.
Bobby Lopez
Mhm.
and Kristen Lopez wrote were
I do.
so clever.
I don't know. I do like it a lot. I think that's another one I think will go up because, I think it getting released at the beginning of COVID will.
Yeah.
That's a whole generation who probably overwatched it. It will definitely. I know I keep bringing up Star Wars with Frozen, but I do think it'll be like their Empire Strikes Back. Like, there's not really a ton of Frozen 2 video essays right now, but like in 10 years, I expect people to be like, I cried when Olaf disappeared into snowflakes and all those things.
I like that they had them both become queens at the end. That was very sweet.
Really, or that they were different kind of,
They both had their
different
roles.
yeah, it had very different roles. I don't know. There was, now I feel bad that I put it so low. Now I'm like, oh, maybe I should have put it higher. Maybe, yeah. The only one I don't feel, I like Raya. I don't know. A lot of this era, I feel like it's going to age in a different way. I think people are going to like Raya. I have already seen a lot of kids on the playground still playing Raya. I get the sense. I mean, that right now, who knows? I could be really off on this. If people listen to this in 10 years, like, maybe I was wrong, but I see a lot of kids still playing Raya, and there's a sort of importance to it that I think people uh, don't aren't taking serious enough. I get the whole Avatar thing and all those things attached to it, but I think there's a lot of kids who it's kind of their first big action adventure thing. It's not Marvel or something, because I don't know. I think it represents something to a lot of people that we're not fully processing yet. But we'll see. You never know which one of these is going to have a cult around it and which one won't.
It's true.
So
I enjoyed Riot. I'm kind of unpopular because I think it would have been better with songs. I just feel like there's all the spots for songs, and there's just something about Disney music that makes you remember that makes them. I think that there's something about Disney music that makes movies more memorable.
Oh wait, it is weird when you watch a Disney movie and there aren't songs. Like
Mhm.
it feels off. Like it.
And it just is a princess movie. It's got all the spots for songs. Like I don't need songs in Big Hero 6 because it's not the kind of movie it is, but I don't know. I
Yeah,
just think it should have songs. So,
but Big Hero 6 feels like almost not a Disney movie sometimes because of that. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
it is a Disney movie, but it just yeah, they could have gotten somebody. I don't know who they would have gotten to do it, but it could have been cool.
Mhm. Let's see. Where do you have Big Hero 6? I'm looking at your list.
I
34.
have it. I have it pretty. The thing with that, I just don't. It was also like how many Disney has to do a superhero movie too, and I don't know if I don't know. It's also a weird pick. Like why that comic? Like
I
what
just
it?
liked that after having a movie about two sisters, then they had a movie about two brothers.
Oh, okay. That's
Kind
a
of liked
good.
that. I have
That
it
is a
at
good point.
24.
That is a good. I just didn't. There's certain things like I like Baymax. I like certain aspects of it. It didn't really.
Hmm.
I don't know. And it was also like, why call it Big Hero 6? Because that's the team, and we don't spend time with the
Yeah.
team. We spend time with the
Until,
team.
That's true.
the team doesn't really form until
Yeah,
We're-
it's more about him and Baymax. Like, why not call it Baymax and whatever the guy's name was?
Hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hero and Baymax. I don't know that.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Well, thank you so much for taking time talking about your ranking and chatting with
Seriously,
us.
Jim,
This was so
thank
fun.
you. What a pleasure.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me on. I hope I didn't talk too much or anything. And
No, it was
thank
great.
you very much. It's great to be here.
So why don't you tell people your channel, where they follow you on social media, all that fun stuff.
Oh, okay. My name's Jim Gisriel. It's Gisriel. I'm mainly on YouTube where I do movie reviews and have my new cartoon film rat video about film history and film theory and stuff. And I also have my Twitter, which I'm active on. And if you want to see family photos and stuff, I guess my Instagram. And yeah,
Great.
check me out. I post stuff regularly.
Yes, we'll have that all in the description. You also check it out. And make sure you're all following us at Disney Talking on Twitter. And Stanford, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I'm at Stanford Clark, and I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. And if you are listening to this episode on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our patron group, which is a lot of fun. And we talk about animated films and Hallmark films. We have patron events, and it's a good spot to be in. So check that out. And then also please check out the merch store where we have hashtag animation junkie shirts. So you don't want to miss that. And thanks again, Jim. We really appreciate it. And we'll have to have you on again. Talk about more fun movies.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me. And I'd love to be on again.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.